Well, Dustin Van Wyck and Ian Porter join us, and over the last 3 months, they've closed over 22 transactions, currently have 42 pending, and we talked about the buyer side, people having what they need when they're going to buy a house and what they're going through. There's another issue people have to deal with, and I know it's a big portion of the market, but determining if they should sell, what their options are as far as selling. And until people start putting their houses on the market, we're going to have low inventory. It's kind of a, I don't know what, chicken and egg conversation. But, well, first, welcome, guys. Dustin, man, you used to work with me. We used to have fun over there at the old Cobalt Mortgage.
Those were good times, just across the hall.
That's right. So it's good to see you again. So talk a little bit about Lumin Brokers and, what's kind of unique about what you guys are doing.
So I always like to say that, we're a progressive real estate brokerage that specializes in distressed property. What we did was we took, 3 people essentially. We took an appraiser who still has his license, that's Ian, a guy who has a finance background, which is me, and then also another individual, Rich Kim, who couldn't be here today, who's a short sale negotiator.
It's good, because we wouldn't have had enough microphones at some point
right,
in time.
Yeah, I see that. So because what we identified, today is that the traditional real estate agent can't effectively list or sell short sales.
We found it's a completely different skill set, or at least quite a bit different skill set than what the traditional real estate had back, over the last 20 or 30 years, and taking that skill of arranging a great buyer with a great seller and then moving them into doing that exact process, but then throwing them into the negotiations, which takes the brunt of these transactions.
So it's really, there's an element of, if people are good with people, if real estate agents who traditionally have been very good with people, very kind of warm, comforting, and knowledgeable, this kind of takes them into this weird legal finance road that maybe they're not so good at.
Yeah, they're working directly with professional negotiators.
And so when you think about that, is there an element of some agents shouldn't be doing this? It's just not in their skill set. Is that where you guys decided to come in?
Well, it's not necessarily that some agents shouldn't be doing it. There's a lot of agents out there in the marketplace that are telling people not to do it. So when we're talking about misinformation in the marketplace, we're talking about certain agents in the marketplace are telling them to avoid short sales altogether. And it makes sense, because if they don't understand the process, then how can you effectively represent your client?
Sure. And I think it's maybe, we talk a lot on this show about finding a professional who knows what they're doing. And in real estate now, the transactions are so different. It's like going to a 401k provider and then, trying to have them understand what maybe all of your insurance options are. It's kind of in the same thing. There's big financial planners who do all of this, and there's real estate agents who do all of it. But there's an element of finding an expert who understands it.
Yeah, and that can deal with the volume and the amount of differences between each lien holder that you're negotiating with. So if you're only doing 4 to 6 transactions a year, it's really hard to know exactly what that lien holder requires to get the deal done. But when you're doing 20, 30 a week, 30 a month, then it's much easier to identify exactly how offers need to be structured and what type of negotiating needs to be implemented to get the result you're looking for.
And so when you guys go through this as a team, full team doing this, where do you feel like what are some of those points that you excel at with a team going through that process to get the result of selling the house?
Well, in the start, we do a full appraisal, interior and exterior, on every single listing that we bring on the market. We bring it on at a price that we feel is completely marketable, but yet supported by comps, as well as at a price that the lien holder appraiser is going to do when they come out to value the property to estimate, if they're going to accept our offer or not. And
so by starting with an accurate price, it keeps you from, I guess, dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping like happens a lot of times, right?
Exactly. And we found that you don't need to list high and then over the next 90 or 120 days continue to drop to effectively negotiate with the lien holder. You can go in at the correct price, and as long as you come in what is relatively similar to where they're coming in on value, the transactions close smoothly. It's when you miss that mark from the beginning that problems arise along the way.
And so when somebody's going, let's say somebody knows they're underwater. It ain't hard anymore, right? And people know if they are or they aren't, or they know it's darn close. Why should people then consider, a short sale? And what are those big benefits? Because, there's a lot, it's, I guess, moral versus legal, right?
Well, the first thing is, if they're kind of stuck in that chasm, so to speak, between, either walking away from their property or just holding on for the next few months. I mean, that's one of the first things that we talk about. And it's paralyzing for the buyers, or rather for the sellers. And, when we talk to sellers, we're talking about, here's an alternative to foreclosure. There's some specific examples, when you look at your credit, foreclosure will affect it for 7 years, whereas if you have a successful short sale, you can obtain financing, as you well know, within 24 months. The other thing is tax consequences. So there's something called the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Act of 2007, and that will actually forgive up to $2 million in taxable income if it's your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years.
So it's a huge difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. So when you start, if people consider, if it's the right thing, then, it sounds like you guys are helping them understand the options. In fact, you guys said before the show, you guys work from kind of this option-based mentality.
Absolutely. Yeah, the first thing we do is consult with the sellers and make sure that they understand the different routes they can go. And a lot of times there is a lot of different routes that they can go. They have many options, but at the end of the day, we want to put them in what's best for them, even if a short sale doesn't become of it.
And so, you put them in you help guide them down the right path in some ways.
Absolutely.
And what are people dealing with? The emotional side of home, I guess? The financial side, the credit. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, aren't there?
Yeah, you're dealing with the emotional side, you're dealing with the financial side, you're dealing with that stigma. And the great thing about a short sale is it kind of does erase that stigma of going down the road of foreclosure.
Yeah, I would think so. You don't, even with friends, family, things of that nature?
It does, and a lot of times they just don't even know. It's not like we have a sign out in the front of the yard that says you're going through a short sale,
I don't know. I've seen them.
Yeah.
Well, we don't do that.
Yeah. We like to be as discreet as possible. Your business is your business.
Sure. We're here with that are going to be coming to market soon.
We would think so. We've seen a lot of properties that have actually gone through foreclosure that haven't come back out on the market. And we've seen a lot of home preservation companies that are very, very active in the marketplace right now, which is keeping the house, keeping the house, the lawn mowed, the house winterized for the winter. And, Ian was talking to somebody over at Chase yesterday.
Yeah, they have a lot of inventory that they'll be releasing back in the market pretty soon. But the difference between 2 years ago and even last year, where here's this group of bank foreclosed properties that are just released in the marketplace, and I think what's going to happen moving forward is that lenders are going to be much more strategic about how they place these properties back on the market. So we're not going to see the bottom drop out like what may have occurred years ago, because they're going to, use third-party companies as well as internally figure out the correct way to release them back in the market without causing a crumble and
pissing off all the neighbors.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing, right? These banks, they don't care, and everybody gets angry.
Well, they have to move, and they move by discounting them, and unfortunately that causes everyone else in the marketplace to have to discount in order to sell.
Well, I hope I think it's a good thing for the banks to do. And I guess from their perspective, they make more money because they don't have this gluttony of houses coming on that then all drop in value because they have released so many.
Yeah, and it's a snowball effect. If foreclosed property comes on at 15% below market and then you want to sell your house, well, what do you have to do? You have to sell it below what you think you would sell it for.
Right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us again. Dustin Van Wyck and Ian Porter from Lumin Brokers. When we come back, another choice sellers have to make when they decide to sell their house. What's that house going to look like? We're going to find out a few things you must do in order to make sure that your house gets the best eyeballs looking at it. My name is Ben Brash, and you're listening to Brashenomics.